Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. My name's Catherine Aisha Beavers. I've been in Manchester about 16 years now, and I've been at this school, KD Grammar School, for the last 16 years too, as head of English. And prior to that, I lived in West Yorkshire. I was born on a farm in York, a very traditional farm, the only daughter, and 3 brothers. And I had a very traditional rural upbringing, very strong Christian parents. My father was a Methodist and my mother was the Church of England. I can't say that a lot of Christian rubric or rhetoric, but we certainly had a Christian upbringing. The last words I used to hear every night were, God bless. And certainly my father, when he took me on walks across our 1,000-acre farm, he used to instill in me a love of nature and a love of God. So it was more like God is everywhere sort of concept of Christianity, and it was very humbling and very wonderful lifestyle, very hard. I was given a flock of sheep when I was 7 years of age, and they were taken away from me when I was 14. When I was 10, I went to be confirmed in the local church in Kexby in Yorkshire, and the priest asked me to talk about, I believe in the Father, the Son and the Holy Ghost, and I couldn't do it. And I remember being driven to the church in the Land Rover by my mother and feeling that I just had to simply throw myself out of the door and onto the road, because I couldn't say God has a son. And I'm not sure why I felt I couldn't say that. It was a very overwhelming urge not to voice those words. And as I said, I've been brought up on a farm, and there wasn't much television. We had a very strong, strict Protestant sort of upbringing. There wasn't a lot of sort of discussion about theology. I certainly had never been introduced to Islam or any other religion. So where that sentiment came from, I don't know. It was very powerful, so much so that I felt that I couldn't, really go through with this communion business. When I was standing in front of the altar, the priest turned to me, and it was my turn to sort of issue the sort of statement. And I put my hands behind my back with Kingses, and I put it behind my back, and I said, I believe in the Father, the Son and the Holy Ghost. And I looked behind me at the window, the stained glass window, and I believed 100% sure that window was going to smash into 1,000 pieces, and a bolt of lightning was going to come through that window and strike me dead. The priest looked at me quizzically, my family looked at me discerningly, and I uttered the words in the most sort of ambivalent manner that I could, and nothing happened. I was very relieved. Anyway, I grew up, as I said. I had my sheep taken away, and because I was a girl and I couldn't be on the farm past the age of 14, because it was a man's world and the farm hands were there, and I had to go and learn how to cook and clean, which I already knew anyway. And then I went to university to study music and English literature. And when I graduated, I got a job at Wakefield Prison. And there was an inmate there, an Indian inmate. He was a special inmate. He used to have special privileges. He had a black band around his arm, and he used to come and give the teachers, I was one of them, a cup of tea and 2 digestive biscuits. He always said he gave me 2 instead of 1 because I was nice. And one day, when I told him I was leaving, because I did 3 years there and I went on to do another degree, I received an unexpected gift. He gave me a copy of the Quran. And he said to me, you've been kind to all of us here, you've not judged us, and we want to give you a gift. So here's the Quran. I said, what is it? He said, it's the book, a religious book, and treat it nicely and put it on a shelf. I said, okay. And I looked at it, and it said, it's like the Bible, and it's got some interestingly archaic English in it. Okay, I'll have a look at that sometime. And I put it on a shelf for 7 years. And during that 7 years, I suffered a lot of problems. I had a terrible time for 7 years, and was about, I was questioning whether I should continue to carry on. I was in a very difficult and violent marriage, and I really didn't know if I could struggle on any much longer. And I took down the Quran, and it fell open at Surah Miriam, and it fell open at an ayah, and it said, And verily God taketh not a son, and were this to be uttered, the mountains would crumble. And I went, there it is. That's it. And that bolt of lightning that I believed was going to come through that window and strike me dead came out of the Quran and into my heart and woke me up. So I then, at that time, I was the head of English as a foreign language at Wakefield College. And I had a lot of students from overseas, and one lady in particular from Lebanon, Hanan. I asked her, what is this Quran? Because I found this, this is what I believed when I was 10 years of age. And she said, this is the religious book of Muslims, of Islam. And really, it's very simple. All you need to do is believe, in one God. And I said, but I already do. And I have. And it took me 20 years to find what I honestly and innately believed at the age of 10 to be true. And so she started teaching me, and I learnt the 5 surahs at the end of the Quran within a week. And I started to pray. My first prayer took me about an hour and a half. I was trying to figure out, which bit do I wash first, and had these little cards with the steps on it, and I was saying, Allahumma, like that. It took me ages and ages and ages. And I was praying, and I had to do it in a cupboard at Wakefield College, because there wasn't anywhere, nobody, really understood what the heck I was doing. And it took quite a long time for me to get, permission to do these things. And back on the farm, of course, my parents weren't particularly pleased that I turned into a Muslim. And Dad, of course, blamed Shakespeare because he thought that all this Shakespeare I'd read had turned me a bit silly. And so, in the end, really, after quite a difficult time with my parents, we sort of agreed to reconcile. And now we visit a lot and everything, but they still can't quite understand what on earth I'm doing. But I think one of my roles here as head of English at KD Grammar School is to try and present that other side of things. Like I think a lot of boys, they don't have much contact with practicing Christians, and I'm always talking about the beauty of Christianity and the wonderful sort of like coming to common terms between Islam and Christianity, and how I was brought up, and how respectful and how humanitarian a lot of Christians are. And I try and sort of embed that sentiment about how sort of like we are and how respectful we should be of other faiths. My parents are good people, and my brothers are good people. They're all honest and hardworking individuals. And I think sometimes when people don't have that, contact with other people, they fear what they don't know. It's certainly been a difficult journey for me. I wouldn't say that it's been easy at all. And I think I found most of my Islam in Sahih Bukhari, in the 9 volumes, rather than I did in people. But, alhamdulillah, I've continued and I'm strong, and this is my 25th Ramadan.